So what if I told you that the number one thing holding most contractors back isn't the bad clients, it's not this current economy, and it's not even their competition. But what if it is your own mindset? So look, today we're going to break down a real Facebook post that comes from a very popular contractor group, right? That's involved in Facebook. And I would say to you that this is exposing partially or even exactly what's wrong with our industry as a whole. And understand that in the contracting world, there is a pervasive approach to just a school of hard knocks and figuring it out on your own. And I would say that it doesn't have to be that hard, right? There are so many people that are looking down on getting help for a business owner. And, I think we'll uncover reasons why as we go further in. So let's talk about this trap, right? That's keeping a lot of good remodelers and contractors broke and burnt out and blind to better options that totally exist. So here's the post. We have Brian. He's a member of Contractors Helping Contractors. He's actually a moderator, surprisingly enough. All right. So he says, members looking for coaching or a mastermind to join. I'd really not suggest it unless you're already doing 3 to 5 mil per year and have resources to waste if you don't get anything from it, because most are very basic material that you can find elsewhere, and the majority of the help you will receive require you to spend another 15 to 25K to build out a website, create some funnels, and get the correct admin, marketing, branding, sales, and then figuring out your metrics. Most of this will get when you hire these positions out to professionals, so the coaching ends up just being a major cost. To tell you probably already knew. If you're struggling in any area, ask the questions and you will get the answers, and then it's just finding the right service to fill the gap. Trust me, if you invest that same 15K into your business, you'd go a lot further. Okay, so we got a lot here to unpack in this post, and I will say that some of what, for me, reading Brian's post, it sounds like he's had some bad experiences, and that's valid. You can't tell, he's probably had bad experiences, and unfortunately, that's the experience he had, right? And I would say to you that in general, we kind of have to look for a gray area because it's not always black or white, right? Okay, so let's break it down. So to be fair, again, there are some valid points in his post. Yes, there are bad coaches, there's bad mentors, there's bad programs, just like there's bad contractors, and yes, there are bad homeowners. And sure, would believe that some of the coaching programs, maybe one that he's purchased or one that was pitched to him or whatever, some could be overpriced for what they deliver. Maybe there's fluff. And yes, throwing money at your business does not guarantee success for anyone, and this is true for any business. But to say that coaching is only for a company already doing 3 to 5 mil, I would say that's wrong. And more than wrong, it's dangerous. So for me, when I first started, I wanted to hire a coach right away, and I ran into that roadblock. The program that I wanted to get involved with, they would not let me into the program because I wasn't doing I think it was 5 million, and I didn't have 10 or 15 years. And it's good because at first it frustrated me, but looking back, what it showed me was they didn't know how to help me and that's why they didn't want the money, because they were like, we don't know how to make it work. We only know these things that we take money from once you get to the 5 million mark. So I can see Brian's point being valid there with that particular company. And it's a well-renowned company. It's been out there a long time. And unfortunately, hey, people still go to them. I don't know why, but that's what it is. So, but this does not mean that that's the case for all coaching and training programs. Okay, so let's break it down a little farther from it. There really is this old school mentality mindset that in this industry, it's I'll figure it out myself, right? And this mindset has been built during a previous generation, most likely, but it gets passed down, okay? And it's from a time when, in general, people did truly have to figure things out the hard way. There was no other way, right? 100 years ago, there was no other internet service option. So here's the truth. Just because our grandparents or somebody else had to learn the hard way, it doesn't mean it's the best way. Sure, some people need to learn on their own, and I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm saying that nowadays you can really get up to speed on how to grow and run a remodeling business much quicker with less headache and hurdles. Now, do you still have to struggle some? Sure, but you can get help. You don't have to do it all out on an island all by yourself, right? Look, successful entrepreneurs in any industry, they invest in leverage, right? Leveraging, and coaching is leverage. So psychologists talk about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And the fixed mindset says, I should already know this. I don't need help, right? The growth mindset says, if someone can help me get there faster, why wouldn't I use that? So you got the fixed mindset guy, overconfident, resistant to help. Nah, I got it. I'm going to do it all on my own. Actually, a lot of that's because they're afraid to look weak. Then the ego, they can't accept help, right? So they have to do it by themselves. On the growth mindset side, the characteristics of that person are, hey, I'm curious, I'm coachable, and I'm focused on getting results today. Let's go. I don't have an ego. Teach me. I can tell you that I don't know the best way, and I'm looking to find it out. So, look, in general, a fixed mindset is what keeps people stuck and struggling. It's what has them repeating same problems generation after generation, year after year. Whereas the growth mindset, that's what allows people to scale, adapt, succeed, and reach new heights and levels that people have never seen. So let's look at some other reality points here. Every profession has some sort of a learning path, right? Professional athletes, usually like baseball, you go through college, then maybe you get into like AAA, minor leagues, right? You get your skills, and then you move up into the majors, right? You practice and learn. Doctors have to do residencies right? Police and firemen, a lot of them have to go through some sort of an academy and have like an on-the-job training period, right? Lawyers have to go through training usually, and a lot of times they'll clerk for someone, or they'll work behind the scenes in the office before they actually go out and start becoming their own trial lawyer. Many of the trades, electricians, plumbing, a lot of them have certain apprenticeships that people will follow, right? But for some reason, contractors, they like to celebrate this like school of hard knocks. It's a badge of honor to walk around and say, I figured it out myself and I had to suffer and struggle, right? And yet most of those guys are never the most successful in the area. Sure, a lot of them have good businesses, right? But very few of those guys grow a large company fast. And this is also why in contracting, 90% of contractors never even celebrate a 10th anniversary in business. And I'll give another point that's really, this will really hit home. In remodeling and in construction and contracting, less than 5% of the contractors ever reach $1 million a year in annual revenue. So let me ask you, let's look at this. There are many companies throughout the country that are doing $15, $45 million a year in sales in remodeling. So if a company can do 30 to 45 million, why is the majority of companies, they can't even get out of their own way and generate a single $1 million a year in revenue? We'll figure that out, right? I'll get you into more details. So look, when you look at other industries, every successful franchise, right, has some sort of a training system approach, a mentorship. You'll go and you'll work at another location or under another franchisee for some period of time before you go and get handed the reins to run yours so that you can see what running a successful one looks like. That's the thing here, right? Most other organizations, corporations, companies, they want you to train with someone who's successfully doing it currently so that you have a greater likelihood of being successful. Every corporate job that I ever had some sort of a training or mentorship program as well. Many of them, not only would I have to do training initially to get the job, then there was like 3 to 6 months of on-the-job training. And then after that training, you would usually shadow a senior person for X amount of time, and they would help you through, the first few months again. And then if you were to get promoted or move into another department, there was a whole nother process of training and shadowing and mentorship. So you have to ask yourself, are all these other corporations and all these other franchises and all these other industries, are they just doing it wrong? Or is contractors in general, are they just that far behind? And is the bar just set that low? Personally, I feel it's this latter. I feel that the bar is really set low in construction. So let's go back to this post and check out a few of the replies. And I think it's interesting how some people just really have had, I guess they've had bad experiences. And I can't take that away. That is probably the reality. And it's unfortunate. And so what we have to do is make sure that we get the word out where is the good coaching, right? How can more people find out about something like the Remodeling Academy, right? Programs that actually work and they get real results. Because apparently there's a lot of bad ones out there. Now, one gentleman here, he's saying, hey, reach out to your local small business association. And I would say that they can be really good resources as well. Brian thinks that they're just good for basic help. And I don't disagree with Brian. That can be true. Jeremy says that seems to me that it's a trendy thing to do for a lot of contractors, become an internet business coach. My thoughts are that if you were so good at it, they wouldn't be coaching. They'd still be operating their business. So Jeremy has an interesting take. And I would say, I've heard this before, that those that can't teach and all these other things. And it's interesting because when I wanted to grow my remodeling business, the first thing I did was look for someone who had some remodeling experience, building, contracting experience, and was a coach. And I went to them because they had already done what I wanted to do, and I wanted to learn from them so that I don't make all the same mistakes. Now, my approach was, I am probably not going to do anything 100% the same way that the other person did it. I have my own personality. I have my own style. I have my skills, my strengths, my weaknesses. So I look at what a coach has to offer, and I'm able to evaluate and say, the coach has some really good points here. I don't know, maybe I'm not 100% on board with that, but I'm going to take all of this and put it into play right away. And my success was 100% founded on having a successful coach. And I'm telling you, time and time again. Now, for me, I think part of that also plays into, because my entire career life, I have learned from coaches. In every sport that I've played, I've been very fortunate. I've had great coaches, and they helped me develop into a much better person and athlete. And then, even little jobs that would seem insignificant. When I was in high school, I worked at Frank's Nursery and Crafts. It was an outdoor garden center on half of the business, and then the other half of the business was indoors and crafts. I worked in the garden center, and I remember when I first got hired, my boss set me up with another employee who had been with the company for a while, and he said, Mike, you're going to shadow so-and-so, and he's going to take you around. You're going to learn the ropes. And then months later, after I learned what it was how to best sell and take care of all the, the shrubs and the plants and the trees, I was then training others in how to do it based off of the way I learned and what. So I'm a big believer in this. And all the corporate jobs that I have, I've received extensive training that really changed the trajectory of the career I had. I had much greater success because of the coaching and the things that I was able to learn from other people's experiences and all the mistakes that they went through, they could share. So I was able to excel much faster because of the coaching. So I can only share it's only been good. Now, sure, I've had some coaches that weren't great, okay? And that is obviously, not all coaches are awesome, but I've also had, many that were just awesome. All right, so let's look at a few other things here. So Brian thinks that, yes, there's coaching programs for 500 to 1,000 that include all the same info that the big 15 to 25K program includes, but it's a waste of money for most because most of what they teach still needs to be purchased from someone that can actually implement actions for you because you build homes and you don't build websites or do admin. Hire for the positions you need and you'll scale, identifying which roles you need to figure out. So it sounds to me like Brian's talking about agencies. It looks like he's gotten in touch with some people that offer more of an agency model. I can't speak. I don't know. He's not mentioning any programs by name, nor does he need to. So, it's hard to say. All right, let's see what else. So this guy's telling Brian that the main piece missing is accountability, and most coaches are holding you to a standard and making sure you're staying on target. I agree with that. Yes. And I would also add that in my opinion about coaching, I experience this personally. A good coach helps hold you accountable, and a great coach teaches you how to be accountable to yourself so that you don't need anyone, but that you can benefit from working with someone. All right, so there's a big difference, and if you need more on that, I'd be happy to break it down. That was something I learned, was not to have to rely on, for my coach for everything, but to be able to go to the coach for anything. There's a difference there. All right, so here Brian is saying the coaches don't hold their mentees accountable, but that's a nice thought that you believe coaches really care, because I've been part of a dozen of coaching programs and I've yet to find one that truly cares. So again, all right, so now we're seeing Brian has definitely had poor experiences in the coaching world, and that's unfortunate, right? It sounds like he has tried to get help and that a lot of the programs have let him down. So now it makes more sense why Brian is sharing things from his frame of reference, right? Hey guys, this is what it's been. I've tried this. I've gone out, I've looked for help, and it hasn't worked, and I'm trying to save you. So I see Brian offering, his intentions are probably good. And at the same time, you have to recognize that his experience isn't necessarily what happens for everyone across the board. And because obviously Josh has had a different experience, right? You can see here, Josh replies back, "You're entitled to your opinion. I disagree. I wrestled D1. My partner was a competitive marksman. We believe in coaching. We get coaching. We benefit from the coaching. I'm just stating facts." And so, yeah, Josh, I'm in more of your boat. As I mentioned, I've experienced good coaching from being in sports, and I wouldn't go into anything without having some coaching work. When I first wanted to learn how to get into real estate investing, I did buy my first house, but I also purchased a program first to learn about it. And then I went and found a gentleman I worked with him one-on-one locally. And that's when things exploded. And next thing you know, I'm buying multiple houses. I'm buying 2 houses on the same day, right? Like, I would have never had that level of success had I not found a coach to work with. And then when it comes to other things I've gotten involved in, training for different athletic things, even as I've gotten older, I wanted to get into powerlifting or learn how to run my first half marathon. I got coaches for all of that, and it made a huge difference. It set me up for tremendous success. So again, some people it works for, obviously. All right, so now Josh comes. So Brian again is saying, your wrestling doesn't equate to the coaching of business owners. The two are not the same. So look, Brian definitely has had some bad experiences, and I feel for you, Brian. That sucks. And because here Josh comes back and says, I have no vested interest in persuading you to change your mind. I'm simply stating there are good options out there. Notice I'm not pushing any particular programs. Mentorship is a huge advantage. Coming from a sports background, it's a no-brainer. Once again, you're entitled to your opinion just like I'm entitled to mine. So, yeah, Josh, I agree with you. I would say the same thing. There's another post here from a guy named Brett, and he's saying best thing he ever did was hire a coach. And then what's interesting is Brian says that businesses like his are the exception, and you would have made it without them because of your personality. So, look, at the end of the day, this post is showing you that people will spread their influence one way or another, right? And so, yes, let's recap a little bit here. Sure, coaching, there are bad coaches out there, and just like there's bad contractors, right? So it doesn't mean the entire model is broken. And hiring the wrong coach doesn't mean that coaching is a scam. It just means you didn't do a good job about vetting and finding a proper fit. And so part of this is, if you as the business owner, you should be doing some self-discovery of and understanding about you and what it is that you need from someone to be successful, right? Because that's a tall order, just to go to someone randomly and hope that it's going to work out. So, now here's some of the things that I would say to take away is that the next generation, people that are coming into remodeling and contracting now, they don't necessarily think the way that Brian thinks, from my experience. The new generation is like, they're digital natives. And here's what I mean. They expect to almost be coached and to learn. And they look for systems because they want a lifestyle balance. They want to grow. They like to grind, but they don't want to have to grind themselves into the ground, right? That's not a weakness. Kids today are coming in with a strategy. They're saying, hey, I want to be successful from day one. I want to learn how to avoid a lot of the, obstacles. And I don't want to have to struggle like so-and-so for 30 years. No, thanks. So I think you're going to see a big shift. I think you're actually going to see more people achieving higher levels of success in the remodeling industry faster than you ever have seen before, because with the advent of all the online systems and documentation and coaching type programs, when someone gets access to good information, they are going to be able to grow and scale 10 times faster than the person who doesn't have access to that. So, I mean, you have to look at it from a realistic approach, right? Most contractors, they aren't avoiding coaching because there's bad coaches or it's too expensive. They're actually avoiding it because a lot of the older guys, they're afraid of being exposed. They're afraid of having to admit that they don't know it all, right? And they don't want to be told that they've been doing it wrong because their ego just can't handle the help. So if your pride is more important to you than your profit, you're going to end up staying small for a long time. So here's the real question. Are you ready to stop surviving and start scaling? Or are you going to let your ego and outdated thinking keep you at the same loop year after year? Look, success isn't built on a struggle 100%. It's built on systems, support, and smart decisions. And yes, there will be challenges along the way. That's part of the growth process, but it doesn't have to be the only way. So I hope you found this video helpful, and please share it with as many people as you know, and anybody that you know that wants to have success in the remodeling field, let them know that they can achieve it. There are good programs out there, and they can come in and have a high level of success, and they can surpass guys that have been doing this for 5, 10, 15 years, no problem, by having a good, proper mindset approach and building themselves a proper business foundation. So anyway, I recommend anyone just check out the Remodeling Academy, and specifically hop on in and get involved in our 5-day remodeler challenge. Go to Get Paid to Estimate and start your success journey now. Thank you for tuning in.